insane.
All right, we had to get all of our feelings sorted out before we went live, but welcome everyone to the Diversities Lit Book Club. We are here going through our this monthly discussion of our January Book of the Month pick, which is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibañez. Yay! So if you are new here, we read one book by a BIPOC author every month and discuss it on my channel like we are doing today. We're over on Goodreads as our main hub. We're also on Discord where some people hang out and chat. So feel free to join us. One of our other co-hosts will hopefully be popping in a little bit later, but I'll have everyone introduce themselves. And then if you are watching, let us know how you liked the book. We'll be talking about it throughout, and let us know a little bit about you. But if you don't know me, my name is Holly. I am the YA fantasy author of A Diamond Bright and Broken, which is releasing in November 2024 with Inimitable Books. I had this for my I don't have a book like an arc yet or anything, but I was doing Instagram reels and I taped this to an animal farm.
That's cute. Oh, that's so funny.
So I could like show something in my hand. So anyways, here's
That's
my
so
book. You can pre-order it now and get exclusive character art if you submit the receipt on my publisher's website. So everything is linked down below. And I'm very excited to talk about this book as always. Yeah.
Go ahead, Head.
Hi, everybody. I am Heather Venkat, known as WriteHollyDavis on the internet, and I am a YA and middle grade fantasy writer, reader of all sorts.
Go ahead, Vanessa. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Marie. I'll go by Vanessa Marie Books on all my platforms. I'm a fantasy, paranormal, and horror writer, diversity reader, editor, all this stuff. You guys know by
now. She was an editor / diversity reader for my novel, so she helped it become good enough that it could be published. So thank you.
And then I'm writer Alicia Grumley, and I primarily write, poetry, and I have a nonfiction project that I'm working on, and kind of dabble in different mediums of writing throughout my time while I'm doing it. So I am very excited to be talking about this book because in true me fashion, I finished it about 20 minutes ago. So, we're looking at real fresh here. And we're all in different time zones. And I had thought the talk was an hour earlier because I just thought it was, but I was really glad that it wasn't because I had really wanted to finish by the time it was time to talk about it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, my goal this year was to read more of the physical books on my physical bookshelf that I have owned for quite a few years. And so I tried to focus on that at the beginning of the month and then read What the River Knows. But I realized I don't wait that last minute because then I read like most of it in the last like 2 days and finished it this morning before work. But I also have it fresh in my mind and was really glad because it was a devourable read. But so for me, I feel like the past couple books that so I didn't go through my spiel. So anyways, we will be talking spoilers for What the River Knows. I'm so excited to talk about it. Just start talking about it.
So many.
Ready to go.
Get ready.
So if you're okay with spoilers, keep watching our discussion. If you don't want to be spoiled, save this for later, read the book, come back, and then chat with us about it in the comments. But the content / trigger warnings for What the River Knows include death, murder, blood, violence, alcohol consumption, mild language, and kidnapping. I'm sure there's other ones too. Betrayal.
I mean, yeah, betrayal. I almost feel like we gotta include abuse, at least emotional abuse
Yes.
here.
Verbal,
Like,
emotional abuse.
Yeah.
Verbal and emotional. And I feel like that could come from kind of several different.
Gaslighting. Yeah, there's some other.
Yeah, gaslighting. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there is some of that. But all that to say,
Greed.
we really enjoyed it.
Yes. But yeah, so like I was saying before, this and the other book that we read, like a lot of the books that we've been reading lately, so like We Are the Origin last month, and then What the River Knows, definitely like a different writing style and different writing style than I write, and then different than I'm usually used to like consuming, because I usually like the kind of like no nonsense flow, not like, I don't really care about like a ton of description and everything. And What the River Knows had like a ton of description, very like beautiful descriptions of the world, and I actually loved it because it really immersed me in the setting and I felt like I was there. And I think that's why I was like, man, like I really want to read this. Like I've got only a couple days to read this book, but I wish I had longer so I could like really take it in and take my time with it. So I'm excited to do that for the sequel. But then at the same time, I was able to find out what happened quickly. But yeah, I loved Isabel's writing style. I thought it was very strong. And just the plot twists and turns, could not guess what was going to happen ever. From reading the blurb, I knew that there was like a rivals to lovers romance. Shocking twists and turns. Yes. Lush, immersive historical fantasy. It's very fitting. They weren't lying. But I think that the rivals to lovers was done really well. There were so many instances where I'm like, they are building that chemistry, that playful banter. Like I am here for it. And at first I didn't think, I wasn't thinking that Wit was the love interest because of how much they hated each other. So it was done in such a good way that it felt really believable. And it wasn't like they were technically professing their love to each other by the end.
Like, I don't know. Do you feel like they hated each other or were enemies in the beginning? Because I get they didn't get along and they didn't like each other, but hate is such a strong word. I probably wouldn't say they
disliked each other because he was like immediately trying to have her go back to. So maybe that is a strong word. So I think that's why they didn't say enemies to lovers. They said like rivals to lovers, because they both were kind of butting heads and had different motivate, like end games. So that were like contradicting each other, or conflicting with each other. So maybe that's more accurate. They strongly disliked each other for getting in the way of what they wanted. So but anyway, so I loved that, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. And yeah, that's all I'll say for now.
Yeah, I can go next. I kind of felt the same way in terms of this being a book different than other books that I've read in the past. I really enjoyed the cultural fusion and just the style. I don't read too many historical fantasies, so this was kind of a breath of fresh air, and I feel like they did it. I feel like Isabel, she did it in a really, really good way, where it was super believable and it didn't really feel like a, drop the character in and you can't really like see how they kind of are able to go about that new environment. Because she was kind of like learning and discovering the same as we were. I did write, like, I forget exactly where it was, but sometime after page like 50 or so, I had put like, the book seems like it's like circling around, not really going anywhere. They keep trying to get her to leave Egypt multiple times, for example. Like, it felt like it was kind of stagnant for probably like 100, maybe even 150 pages. Like, I was like, it felt a little bit stagnant. And so that was really the only reason why I knocked it down to 4 stars, because it did drag a bit, which I think is it happens a lot in books, like that kind of like third to middle-ish, dragging, but obviously it picks up a lot towards the end, and it's just like bam, 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 like one thing after another. And so I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't really predict stuff, but I did put like the very first note I put was missing / parents missing / presumed dead. Oh, so they're probably still alive. That's what I put. But other than that, like I really enjoyed the main character. I felt like she was kind of smart, witty, but also like conscious and savvy at the same time. Like she was believable because she wasn't perfect. She did make mistakes too, but she was also like very headstrong because it takes a lot of gumption to go to a whole nother country by yourself
as a widow, or as a widow.
So I admire
love her
as a really strong character, and so yeah, I enjoyed it. Gave it 4 out of 5.
You want to go, Vanessa?
You can go. Okay.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, I finished it about 10 minutes before we were scheduled to go live. So it was right down to the wire there for me. And I get what Heather's saying about feeling like the action needed to pick up. But what made it so solid, I mean, it's a 4.5 or 5 for me, for sure. Like, I really enjoyed it. But what, like, really drove that for me was her descriptive prose. Like, any of those moments where she was talking about magic, any of those moments where she was describing the Egyptian gods or goddesses, or any of those moments where she really just kind of put this really vivid picture in my head. I didn't mind that I wasn't seeing a lot of action, but to still kind of hit her point, I was on about page 200, and I'm like, I'm on about halfway, and we have to be tipping pretty quickly. And to be fair, it does tip. It's like it's almost like you're on a roller coaster, right? And you're on that really slow ascent, and then like you're down and going. So I can see what Heather was saying about it, but I didn't mind that slower pace because the descriptions were so poignant for me at that early half. Well, I mean, throughout the book, but the early half too, like as they were describing just kind of everything. Like, she would sit there and, like, I thought those moments of description really gave us a better feel for her personality. And that I thought we got to see some of her, this is something that Isabel did well by giving Inez those kind of descriptive things. You could tell that she's an artist, right? Like, she really brought out these things. I feel like the details Inez would focus on are details that an artist would focus on if she were trying to paint the picture, which I liked that we got to see some of her sketches throughout the story
so
too.
Cool. That was fun.
Really
unexpected.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Formatting wise, that's different than anything I've ever read. And I liked Whit's little, like, asides at the end of, the chapters whenever he had those little asides.
Yes.
So I think if I had to pinpoint things that were different from books that I'd read previously, it would be those little, like, aside moments, but also that we get to see those sketches, those, like, charcoal sketches as adults, because you don't see those in young adult or new adult fantasy. That's a middle grade thing that you see typically, or even like early reader. So it was just a nice bit. And I mean, I would be curious to know if that was something Isabel did or if it was something that her publisher did. But yeah, so those are kinds of some things that I thought were noteworthy different that we're kind of getting around talking at. But yeah, I enjoyed it. 4.5 to 5, honestly.
It designed by Devin Norman, interior illustrations by Isabel Ibañez.
Right. So
I didn't even think about that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that makes it even better because those characters are exactly how she envisioned them, right? Like, especially anything of wit, right? Like, that's good. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what, I guess, yeah, maybe 4.5, 4 3/4, just because of that real slow ascent. But the description were so poignant for me that I didn't mind that build. But I was like, we cannot keep building for very much longer. Like the book's gonna end.
Not a hurry.
So I did have that thought, but I didn't have that thought as I was reading it. It was only in the breaks, like as I was reading it, like as I was like, oh, like, and there was never a point where I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to be done with this, you know, like nothing that like that, nothing that really pulled me out of the story necessarily. So, yeah.
Okay, so for me, of course, it was the opposite of what
Oh no!
No, I loved it, and I can't wait to read the sequel.
Oh, okay.
But the part that's opposite is with the descriptions.
Oh.
I was like, can we just move it along?
But they felt poetic to me, and that's why I liked them.
They did. They were very poetic, and she's a strong writer. I mean, and I'm not saying anything about that. It's just a personal
Sure.
preference for me. I typically can't do a lot of descriptions because I can't really picture what you're describing anyway.
Sure.
No matter how good you describe it, no matter how detailed or how well the descriptions are, I always struggle with picturing things and holding things in my head of how it's supposed to look. I think that might be an ADHD thing because I've heard something about that in the past, but I'm not going to go there right now. But so for me, I never cared about descriptions, which is probably why I also struggle to write descriptions. And that's my weak area. Because I'm just like, just tell me what's going on. I don't need to know what it looks like. Who's doing what? Who's saying what? That's what I want to know.
You know, you bring up a good point because I know at least Zara, my publisher, has ADHD and also aphantasia and can't picture things in their head. So that makes sense that like maybe a lot of people have aphantasia or a version of it. They would have a really hard time with this book. Like, come on, let's hurry up. Because they're not picturing it.
And to clarify, Vanessa and I have historically been kind of on opposite ends of like liking things. Now we've been coming a little bit more towards the middle lately, I feel like. We haven't really had one where we're like totally opposite in a while. So I was not trying to invalidate your opinion or anything, but this was just the first one where, because I just enjoyed it so much that I was like, oh no, that one hurt a little bit. It wasn't a, you're not entitled to your opinion. It wasn't, I was trying to invalidate it by any stretch of the imagination. It was, oh, I loved it so much. It hurts me a little that it didn't resonate for you in the same way.
No, I definitely really enjoyed it. Like especially once it starts picking up.
Yeah.
Because like you said, there is that slow build up. That's the part that I really felt like, this is dragging. Can we just move on? But once you get through that and get towards the end, it really ramps up, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Now I did predict some of what happened. Some of the twists and reveals, not everything. So some things still surprised me, but I really enjoyed it, even though there were some big things that I didn't like. Heather, I was like, yeah, her parents are probably alive. And one thing I always tell my brother whenever we're watching movies and stuff, and it starts off with dead parents or whatever, I'm like, if you don't see a body, they're probably
Which, I mean, to that point, spoiler, like, we haven't seen any indication of her father yet,
Right. And so I think he's alive too.
I would think
Well,
so.
That was so shocking to me because, like, at first I thought too was like, okay, if they just went missing in the desert, like, then how do they know that they're dead? But then with the whole like letter and everything, hey, like Tio like murdered them. That's why, their bodies can't be found. But then when the mom was found and said that Papa died, that Tio killed Papa, and she held him in her arms as he died,
No.
and then find out that he's alive. And like, so I'm like, I believe that he's alive because he said never stop looking for me.
And that
Okay,
was the
let's
other
dive into the mother.
before we and that was the other
Okay.
thing with the other thing I had predicted as well was Tio is not the bad guy, he's the one you can trust.
Oh,
Because they made it way too obvious that from the beginning they were making it way too obvious, like he's a murderer, he's he's hiding something, but I was like, this isn't gonna be what she thinks it is. He's not gonna have anything to do with their parents' murder.
oh wow,
'Cause
I had
they
no
just made
idea.
they made it too obvious. So I'm like, there's got to be something else going on here.
Well, and I thought Wit's asides really gave us a more thorough picture of him because he was always very concerned about keeping the artifacts to the Egyptian people and all of that stuff. So I actually really appreciated that technique of giving Wit asides because you're seeing you're seeing Tio Ricardo from a different perspective, and it's tainted from Inez, right? Like, she's coming up against an uncle who has tried to make her leave time and time again, who's in control of her money, her future, her fortune, who she doesn't know. And on some level, like, we have to take into consideration she's a late teenager, right? Like, she's, under 25.
Mhm.
She's what, 19, 18, 19, something like that, 17 maybe? So, on some level, there's a little kind of self enraptured, right? Like, only her perspective is the one that is necessary or vital, or how sometimes like teenage girls can sometimes be a little wrapped up in their own feels, right? And that, I think, by giving Wit those asides, and yeah, he's got a temper, but it also made him more human. And so I liked Wit's asides to get to see a different side of Ricardo, because I was kind of like seeing those, and I was like, I don't think she has a full enough understanding of this man. Like, yeah.
And she's 19. I just remembered
19.
Yeah, I was just looking because I was like, I know she's over 18, but I was like,
Yeah.
where?
In the beginning, she was talking about her parents not being there for her 19th birthday.
Oh, okay,
right.
got
So
it.
this probably, based on the fact that she is 19, I would say that probably kicks it into like the new adult genre for me. Because she's 19, and because of some of those scenes, especially like later in the book, especially like between her and Wit later in the book, that's getting a little more new adult for me. Like, you could, and not that they're like, on screen or anything, but like, I just, because I couldn't quite remember how old she was, I was like, well, is it YA or is it NA? But I would say it's, for me at least, probably NA.
It still feels kind of YA, but I don't know.
It's considered YA.
Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe in the sequel, if they show anything more, it might go into the NA category. But I thought what they showed was something we would see in YA too.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it is that kind of
Unfortunately,
gray
there
area.
is much spicier things I've read in YA, which is
fair.
Yeah.
technically should be new adult. Oh, what did you say, Had?
Yeah, like along the lines of you suspecting that the uncle was really the good guy. I didn't think that, but I had like a small thought, and I wrote down a quote from page 49, and I didn't follow through with it because in the beginning, they really say, oh, uncle, he never sent his birthday cards or anything to her, haven't spoken in 10 years, like they're more strange than anything. And they really tried to paint that picture
That's
of
true.
she doesn't know him. But on page 49, she says, she's like, I didn't like a stranger pawing at my parents' belongings, and I almost said so, but a realization silenced me. He wasn't the stranger, I was. Mr. Hayes knew a side of my parents I'd never seen, knew them in ways that I never would. He had memories of them I would never be a part of. He had worked alongside them, shared meals, and slept at the same campsite. And like, I had a brief moment of like, okay, there's a lot of moments in the book where she talks about the good memories she's had when they visited. But to me, I was almost like, okay, why is she like, why does she care? Why is she so upset? Because like they weren't really in her life as much as they should have been. And I feel like she should have been kind of more like almost more upset at them for kind of like not really being around. And so the fact that she said, oh, I was the stranger to my parents, I should have taken that as like a clue that like, yeah, there probably is a side of them that she doesn't know. But I didn't follow through with that, but I did note it.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess I just like kind of believed it. And even though it was like a face value thing, I think I was just like, I was accepting it at face value because like sometimes there is the truth, like.
To Vanessa's point, though. Okay, can we talk about Lords now? Can we talk about her now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Because I hate this bitch. Because I hate her. To Vanessa's point, though, I didn't trust her from the moment she came back on page. I did not trust her because it felt too convenient. Like, oh, how convenient that she's suddenly here and back. Like, and I kept having this thought, like, I don't trust her. I don't trust her. She's going to be doing something with these artifacts. I don't trust her. And it just felt too convenient that she was suddenly there and back. And I didn't like it.
Oh, I had no idea. I felt betrayed too. Like there were so many times where I put in my review, I wanted to throw the book across the room from the very beginning when Sterling took her ring. And of course they believed. And then when Whit was trying to get rid of her. And so I kept just kept being like, I have so much rage in me right now. And so it like really made me empathize with Inez. And then I felt the betrayal of the mom. Like I was like, they're gone? Like,
well, I felt it, but I also saw it coming. I'm like, no, this bitch, she better not. She better not. And then I was like, damn it, she did. I knew she was gonna.
And then even still, when they were locked in the tomb together, and she said, my mom's coming for me.
Oh, okay, I hated that. Yeah, that was awful.
No.
When she said, I literally was like, she is still believing in her mom. Which is like really.
But she also uses that same technique to get away from Whit to go after her cousin when she's been kidnapped. Oh, yeah, will you go leave a letter at the desk, please? I'll be right here. Liar. We all knew she was going to leave. That's what she's been doing the whole book.
Like mother, like daughter.
Right. Like, I was like, oh, honey. Like, I was like, he's going to be mad again because here she is evading him again. Like, why didn't you see that coming? I even had a note like, Whit, you should have known.
Yeah.
Like, you should know better than to let her out of your sight at this point.
For real.
She locked the maid into her room.
Yeah.
Well, we should have just leave her in there.
Or like even in the beginning, she's like, all my clothes and all my stuff's there. Oh well, I'm just gonna run away.
So do you all think that her dad is still alive?
Mm-hmm.
Like hiding somewhere? I don't know.
I don't think he's hiding.
Where the library hides?
Maybe. I don't think he's hiding. I don't think he would be separated from her intentionally if he could. I don't think he can get back to her. I think he's being held captive or is in probably some sense of danger. I don't think he's hiding. No.
The one of the things that I don't know if I'd say this completely surprised me, but what I wasn't expecting was the dad to be innocent in this, because I thought if the mom was bad, the dad would be too. Like they're like in this together.
Mm.
So I didn't expect the mom to betray her dad as well. So that was one thing
I guess
that
it makes sense.
caught me kind of off guard. What?
Oh, because of the affair?
Yeah, which when they had brought up that when they said she had an affair, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But before that, I was kind of thinking they were both, together, hiding somewhere together, and they were both, after the artifacts and stuff. There was something else that I was gonna say. I forget.
I think as soon as I realized her mom was having an affair.
Sorry, Astrid's being rebellious. I was like, oh, that's the cat food can cover. Fine. You're chewing that now. Okay, anyway, sorry.
I think, I mean, like, as soon as her mom was like, I have a friend and he's coming to help us, I was like, it's unfaithful. Like, I just, like, and as soon as he stepped on screen, she's like this easy familiarity between them. And I'm like, they are together. They were 100% together. And, like, so, there's just nothing I wouldn't put past her at this point.
Well, and the fact that she specifically planted this letter that was never sent, like she knew what she was doing. So it was so like conniving, like just like planting all of these things, like prepared to betray her daughter. Like it wasn't just like this circumstance thing. It was like this was carefully calculated.
She's like, I saw you since you've been here. I've been waiting, but I'm choosing. That was it. It was conniving. It was like, I'm choosing this moment to reveal myself, even though you've been here for so long. And
no. So speaking of conniving or calculating, with Wit, what was going on with the epilogue, with the ending?
I think he's talking to her mother.
Oh. What?
Really?
Who else?
I don't know. I was so confused by who had the letter.
He telegrammed to somebody, used her first name.
Wait.
And Ricardo wouldn't, the plan, Ricardo said, I'm not giving you your fortune until you're married. So he's like, marry me. Now, granted, he's going to have to deal with his actual real feelings that are coming. But I think that his mom or her mom might have something to do with his sister. I think his sister is in some sense of trouble, or she needs some extra support, because he kept just really being focused on his sister throughout. He wanted to maintain those connections. She is an artist too. There's just something there. And if that's that is Wit's weak point, is his sister. So I think he's being manipulated, probably from when he was in debt and drinking too much and at a brothel and all of those things. I feel like he sent that telegram to her mother.
Wow.
I thought it was to his parents, because he got a letter and then ripped it up.
But his parents don't know who she is.
Yeah.
Why would they know?
That's
right.
True.
Oh,
he called her Inez.
Don't believe it.
He said Inez fell for it. First name.
And he kept his word, and now it was time to collect. I don't know. I just don't want to believe that he is bad, because he's been.
I don't think he is. I think he's getting some other things. He was not expecting to be attracted to her or to fall for her or care for her. He's going to have a redemptive arc.
Because I was feeling the way everything went down. I felt like he started off that way, and then realizing that he had feelings for her, but it was more of a like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try to get her on my side, but like he's really not gonna betray her, but he's pretending to the person he's talking to like he is. Like, oh yeah, she fell for it. You know, but that's not
But
really.
now this is making me rethink and question everything. So okay, so when the note says Inez fell for it, what do you think that meant? Like, what did she
Like
fall for?
him for being married, because he doesn't have any money, and if his sister's running out and if he's engaged to somebody and he's got a title, he's Lord Wit, whatever his last name is, without Somerset or Summerfield or whatever. He's out of money. He needs money. He knows that she doesn't get her fortune until she's married. She fell for his ploy of making her fall for him, but forgot that he was gonna fall for her, or didn't realize he was going to fall for her.
I mean, that would make sense because he was discharged from the military, and so he probably lost.
Because he knows she's connected to the magic. He knows that she can find the things. He's also like she can find anything with Cleopatra if it's the Library of Alexandria, which I pray to God it is.
I'm even more still confused. So that means, wouldn't that mean Wit was working with the mom from the beginning of the book before she even got there?
Yeah, that's what that would mean.
Oh,
you can't double cross a double crosser.
Yeah,
rough.
Oh,
unless you've got what would be motivating enough to him, because he does care for her. I don't think this is a Hans situation from Frozen. Mm-hmm. I think he meant to flirt with her and make her fall for him, but I don't think he ever intended to have feelings for her, based on how he keeps himself under control and how he can't help but laugh, and how he's like, how did I feel like strangling you 2 minutes ago, but now you make me want to laugh? And like he didn't anticipate her, right? Like, and he said, well, I kept on to your button. That's why I kept your button. Your mom had told me so much about you, what you like to eat and play. And he knew her mom. He knew her mom from the get-go. And his parents have been trying to call him home for over a year.
Huh.
Oh my god.
And he's like, you felt like someone I already knew.
Oh my god.
You could easily manipulate her.
Yeah. Wow.
So do you think all of this, her parents going missing and everything, was like a ruse to try to bring Inez to Cairo?
Yeah, maybe because let's talk about how her mom doesn't realize that her dad sent off the ring, right? Like, they knew they were all looking for Cleopatra's tomb, and remember, she's like, what ring? What ring? What are you talking about? Like, she had no idea. And this woman is smart enough and conniving enough and manipulative enough that as soon as she said, oh, I think, because isn't that why you think Papa sent me Cleopatra's ring? She went, oh. And maybe she didn't know it was a ring. Maybe she thought he would do something else, because, Ricardo kept saying, Caio and him, Ricardo kept begging Caio to, forgive Lourdes for her affair and for doing those things. And he knew that they were starting to have, these problems. And Lourdes had said to Inez already, you are your father's daughter. You are here, you are more like your father than I know. So I think she has some sense of Ricardo sending something off, and maybe she has some understanding of how the magic works more thoroughly than we've been given an understanding of at this point, because the magic can latch on, right, and just go from there. So, because she says, I'm my mother's spinning image, but I am more like my father, right? And so yes, I think, I don't think necessarily that he's been working with her intentionally. I think he is being blackmailed or has something, because he's like, yeah, I knew about your mom's affair from the get-go. She begged me not to tell.
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
There's something else going on there with him.
Mm-hmm.
There's way a lot going on there with him. He can't, like, I think he's being manipulated because of the things that he's faced in the past, possibly because of his sister, possibly for some other things that we haven't seen yet. But I mean, you know, he talks about how he was dishonorably discharged, and like there's a lot of guilt and stuff associated with that. And maybe there's something with being there at the palace, you know, like they beheaded him. That's what they said. So yeah, I think he is a very complex character, and I bet we're going to see a lot more of his story next time, I hope.
Oh, yeah, more than just some end chapters about him.
Right. I mean, I don't know. It's a theory, right? It's not my story to tell. So, Isabel, you know, we're anxiously awaiting.
We are.
Wouldn't he also, wouldn't we have seen him like feel more guilt whenever he's around Ricardo if he's working with?
No, Ricardo's a means to an end. He's keeping tabs on Ricardo. He's keeping him close. Ricardo's where all the money is right now. Ricardo's the one that has the legality wealth for most of it.
Ricardo saved his life.
Yeah, but I don't think Ricardo even saving his life is enough to contend with whatever this other thing is that's being held above his head. I think he's got a lot that's going on.
No, it wouldn't be enough to make him not do whatever is being held over him. But I was just thinking, I feel like it would at least give us more of an internal struggle. Like, he saved my life and I'm, so appreciative to him, but I have to, at the same time portray him.
And he's a soldier, he'll do what he has to do. He'll kill who he has to kill, he'll do what he has to do.
Oh man, that's
November's too far away to get the answer.
I know.
Must get an early arc.
Even if all of that is true and happens in the next book, like I'm still gonna be like shocked, because I just don't want it to be true.
Right.
But like you said, if he has a redemptive arc that is, that's good enough for me. Like I just feel so bad for her cousin Elvira, right?
Oh,
like, it's just like really, like I know, like yes, it was all serious, and they needed. Like that had to happen in order for them to be like then pointing the gun at Inez. But I'm like, the poor girl. Like she didn't deserve that.
That was sad.
That was one of the twists I did not expect. Because I wasn't expecting her to even be here, and she shows up at the end and then gets kidnapped, and yeah. That I did not see at all.
And I thought they were going to save her. I thought they were going to save her. Or I thought we were going to get to see a scene of some of that alchemy magic coming back, or what they expect they're going to be doing to the body of Cleopatra. I thought we might be seeing some of that come into play.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I liked the bits of magic that they did show. I hope we get to like wringing out the tie that had the scalding water. And shrinking the artifacts and the handkerchief. Like I hope we get to see kind of more of that in the sequel.
Oh yeah.
But maybe if they crush, Cleo, because they a rumor, or if you pulverize Cleo's body and to extract its magical healing properties, like
right,
maybe we can bring someone back from the dead.
That's what I was thinking, because she's already connected to an Egyptian goddess. She's like practiced in alchemy, like, and why does Wit want that scroll with alchemy if there isn't something wrong with his sister?
Yes, the single sheet.
Or if she's not dead. Oh God, you guys, what if Wit wants the scroll because his sister's dead and he's practicing alchemy to bring her back?
Oh,
my
that's right. I forgot he was looking for the Ouroboros. in
Because he
alchemy.
doesn't want to lose the connection to his sister. I mean, we're just kind of all assuming his sister's alive.
Yeah.
What if she's not?
Yeah.
Oh
What
my
if
gosh.
what if he wants to use it on the general because he felt so much guilt from it?
All of it.
He
Yeah.
tried to like,
Oh.
unsully his name.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
So he's got a lot of stakes.
Hey, Wit is a very fitting name for him.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of motivations there for that. Could like he's a bigger key player than he's
Oh
he's
yeah.
not just the love interest.
Mhm.
Which I love.
Right.
I love it. He's
Yeah.
not like just like, okay, plop this pretty boy. Like when
Right.
she was describing him in the beginning, it's like it was almost like he's kind of got this like rough and tumble, like I mean, yeah, he's like brawny, but then he kind of like, had a little bit of alcohol in his breath. He's a little bit like, the first like aside that she had him say, like he's just like swearing and stuff like that. So he's a little bit like not the stereotypical guy, and I liked that, but all these other layers are just like that's just icing on the cake, man.
And I think he calls her chit in his head because it's a very derogatory term. It's a derogatory term, but I think he calls her chit in his head when he's having those asides to distance himself from the feelings he's getting for her. Because if you notice, like later on, he doesn't do that as much, right? Like there's one little bit, but then like after he says, Inez, the feelings go both ways, his next aside is 2 words: bloody hell.
Yes, I wrote that down with just like a laughing emoji.
I did too. I loved it.
Like,
So
bloody
I
hell.
think he calls her chit to distance himself, but like then like his feelings for her have surprised himself, I think. And I think there's going to be some very interesting play out of that.
Mhm.
Because she's not going to suffer his betrayal lightly. Inez isn't.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, good point.
Because she can't, right? Like not being who we've seen her to be for 400 pages, right? We can't expect her to suffer a betrayal of someone else. Like if she can't suffer it from her mom, if she's already trying to like figure out how she's going to stop her mom and ruin her mom,
Yeah.
oh, she ain't going to suffer it from Wit. No way.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this sequel. It's been a long time since I've been like, ooh, dang.
I know. Like I need to read the stat.
Mhm. Dingle dangle.
Dingle dangle. It was kind of similar to I think Heather and Alicia were saying how like Inez didn't know her parents as well as she thought, so it was like, oh, more likely like how do you know your mom's not again,
Right.
alive. But on page 171 and 2 they had said she had said my parents wouldn't have approved of having so many weapons, talking about that one guy, Finn Castle. And Tio said, his words rang out, "You didn't know your parents." I reared back as if he had struck me across the face, but he hadn't lied, and perhaps that was what hurt the most. And it's like that line like struck me so hard. I was like, oh, I do emojis, and I'm like, oh, this was a funny quote. This was a sad quote. That was just like got me in the gut.
Right. Well, and then on 173, Wit says he trusts exactly 2 people, his brother and his sister. Right. But once again, we have no indication of if his sister's alive. Now I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, or if she's not alive, she's got to be very, very ill because he needs some sort of that alchemy to heal her.
So I'm excited to see more of that alchemy.
Yeah, that's going to be
Maybe
great.
there's more alchemy parchments in the Library of Alexandria.
I feel like we have to put the sequel on a poll because I want to talk about it.
Oh, maybe. And that actually would be pretty good because haven't we not done a sequel yet? So for
We've never done
December. for December. I feel like even though it's in December or maybe January of next year.
January.
I can't
Yeah.
wait. No.
Can we just call it now? We just feel like
I'm gonna
January 2025.
I'm
That's
going to
it.
add this to the poll, to the group right now.
Yes.
Well, I mean, like, not that
We've
we're
already
thoroughly done with this yet,
a year
but
later.
we did, the 5 of us did swing the vote for next month's pick unintentionally, right? Like, we don't talk to each other about what we're going to pick other than, oh, how do we decide, right? Like, we're never sitting here all like being like, I'm going to pick this one, I'm going to pick this one, like, I think one time with JL, we just flat out said, we are reading JL's next story, right? But for next month, all 5 of us, the hostesses, all 5 said, that's the one we want to read. So independently, yeah, like we all made that choice.
I'm literally saying.
I mean, Greek mythology, always, yes.
Yeah.
Any mythology, Egyptian, I love. That was the other thing I wanted to mention with this. I love all the historical information we got here about Cleopatra and her time as Pharaoh, the last Pharaoh, and her family, her kids, and first husband, whatever. Like, I really appreciated all the historical details that went into this. I marked the green tabs are all the historical details.
Oh, cool.
In here. And I'm like, oh, this is so good.
I like all the tabs you have.
I love how she just, weaves it into the story so seamlessly. That's the only time when, that was the only time that before we got to the end, when I was feeling like things were moving slow and kind of dragging, but whenever she would bring up another historical, detail in the story, I'd be like, that's when I'm like, oh, I'm in it again. I'm invested again. So I love that.
I have a question. Did you also listen to the audiobook, Vanessa? Okay, I was wondering how it was.
I like the audiobook, yeah.
Nice.
I started without the audiobook and I was gonna try to read it without it. But then, of course, like I do, I procrastinate too long. And so I was like, I only got a couple days to read this. I need the audio.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, it's good. And they do have 2 narrators, so with the sections is a different narrator.
Oh, fun.
Nice.
Cool.
I like that.
Yeah, I enjoyed the story. Even though I had to read the back half of it today, that was my fault, but I really did enjoy the story because it was somewhere good. But I did want to say a couple of things, like, because I always like pointing out the quotes that relate to the title.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's 2 that kind of relate to it that I found. And one of them is on 272. And I know we've probably got to wrap up soonish, but on 272, Mama bent and dipped her palm into the water. Imagine everything she's seen throughout the centuries, which also love that the river of the water is feminine in the Egyptian culture at this point. It was a sobering thought. The Nile knew everything and had seen the best and worst of Egypt, right? So like that, because what the river knows, if it knows everything, like, ooh, what a thematic point. But then on 295, after her mom leaves her, that last sentence before the page or before the paragraph break. Or well, I guess the last couple there. The blurry outline of the boat was in view far enough in the distance I had to squint to make out the shape. It moved noiselessly over the water, carrying my mother where only the river knew. Oh,
Oh, so good.
What does the river know? Everything.
Yeah, the best and the worst. Oh,
Yeah,
That
but I
makes
had so many other quotes. Like, I mean, that's a good one for me. But yeah, there's just really
there are a couple quotes I really liked as well. And some of it is just like quotes that like I feel like it's such a timely message even for today. But like,
Oh, I'm glad you're going to bring up some of these. There's a couple of them that I thought of too. Yes, go ahead.
So like page 61, where she says, everyone deserved a living wage. No human ought to be treated as if their work didn't matter, or their choices, or their dreams. Yes.
And in that same kind of, I think it was that same kind of scene, she also talked about how everyone deserves a seat at the table, right? Like there's always this like underlying, which Vanessa, I don't know if that's one of the other ones you were going to talk about, but there's that kind of underlying theme of the story that the Egyptian people aren't getting a good enough say about what happens to Egyptian artifacts, right? And I think it can go back to Warrior Girl Unearthed, right? Like,
that's what I was thinking of.
Love it. Yeah, but like who's to say that like British culture, right, it gets to be the ones in charge of the whole world, right? And I get because the sun never sets on the British Empire, and there's so much with that, right? Like there's way more time or way more conversation with that than we have time for tonight, I think. But
that just made me think when you said that the sun never sets on the British Empire. My immediate thought was of another quote that's like, which I think would be great if she found a way to weave it into the sequel. But the quote is, every empire crumbles at some point.
Yeah, or at some point or eventually or something, which would be good because like there is that undercurrent of distrust of the British people, right? And Inez has it being from South America, right? And the Egyptians rightfully have it because they're artifacts that are being sold off. So I think that's a really interesting like cultural point that she got at subtly, but really is a strong motif in the story.
Yeah, and that was really interesting to me because I didn't know about any of that stuff. So I was like, oh gosh, like what's going on here? Like,
Well, and I do have another prediction here all of a sudden, and this is gonna be interesting to see how she works this through, right? Because she has set up some really good Shakespeare references, right? And it's always like, oh God, Shakespeare again, right? But I would like to point out, as someone who like, I mean, I love Shakespeare. Shakespeare's my favorite author. Shakespeare has a play called Julius Caesar. Okay. So there's gonna be some quotes about Julius Caesar as one of Cleopatra's lovers, as like all of that, right? Like there has to be, because how would she miss that opportunity? She wouldn't, right? Isabel would not miss that opportunity.
Right.
Holly, what I said was, we were talking about Shakespeare. Isabel's done a good job of setting up, it's always Shakespeare this. And I said, I wanted to point out that Shakespeare has a play called Julius Caesar, and she's not going to miss an opportunity to weave some of the quotes from that into what the library knows.
Oh, that would be so fun.
She would have to, right?
Yeah,
Or like what we learned from Julius Caesar, like of course, because, and so I've kind of always loved like Cleopatra lore because my birthday is actually the day that Julius Caesar died, right? It's the Ides of March. So I kind of was always like, as I was growing up, doing birthday like research what happened on this day, and you type in Julius Caesar, and the Cleopatra connection always comes up. So it'll be, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I had 2 more quotes I wanted to bring up real quick. One is on page 166. At the top where it says, Mr. Fincastle regarded me with the keen interest. You're an artist? I like to draw. I'm not sure if that makes me an artist. Of course it does, my uncle barked. And I actually really appreciated that quote because it made me look at things a little bit differently, because I recently started getting into drawing as well, and I'm learning to draw a little bit, which is fun and I like it, but I'm definitely not great at it, and I wouldn't necessarily call myself an artist. So to hear her uncle saying, "Of course it does," I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Grant Faulkner of NaNoWriMo has something kind of similar about writing, and he kind of always says, if you write, you're a writer.
That's what I thought of when I read that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, everyone's a writer. Yeah.
Right. And so but that's cool, Vanessa, that that's something that maybe encouraged you in a way, right? Like,
Yeah.
Now you can add artist to your writer, editor,
Artist.
accolades.
Yes, I want to hear this last quote, but I also just got a text that dinner's basically ready, so I am excited to hear the last quote, but I might have to go soon.
Cool. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. The last one was just on page 252, where Anna says, I returned her smile. I understood her completely. So much of my life had been learning how to manage the people responsible for me. And I was like, if that is not just the perfect way to summarize parentification of his, like, because when you're a kid who's been parentified, like, you're the people that are supposed to be responsible for you are the people you end up having to manage or be responsible for.
I definitely missed that reading that. Wow, that was powerful. Well, this was a great discussion of what the river knows. If you guys think of anything else, you can leave it in the comments or in the forums.
Teresa, we hope that you are okay and that you have a chance to rewatch and put your comments in the comments, because I would love to know what you thought about this also.
Yes, yes. And so please join us for our February Book of the Month pick. We are reading A Drop of Venom by Sanji Patel, which is a Rick Riordan Presents. It's so gorgeous. And then the back too. Yes.
Oh, I haven't seen the back yet. Oh, shoot.
Yes.
Shoot. I'm waiting for it to come in from the library, so I'm really hoping it gets here soon.
I hope so too.
There's a beautiful map on the inside. This is just gorgeous. So anyways, yes, please join us for that. And thank you for watching, and we will see you guys next month.